I am precious. I kept it secret and it broke us both. Watch till the end and see how my Valentine became something else.
Not every woman beside a man belongs to his heart. The elders whispered this proverb on dusty evenings when the sun melted into red horizons. But nobody in the village believed it applied to Precious and the man they called Teacher Kofi. On Valentine's Day morning, she walked through the market with her head high and her wrapper neatly tied. Women smiled knowingly. Men nodded with approval. Children pointed and giggled behind their hands. The entire village had decided. She belonged to him. She was his Valentine, his companion, his future. But as Precious bought tomatoes from Mama Soa's stall, she felt the weight of their assumptions pressing against her chest like a stone. She paid quickly and walked faster. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her basket. Because Precious knew something the village did not know. Something that made every smile, every nod, every assumption feel like a knife wrapped in silk. The truth was simple and terrible. She was never his Valentine. Not in the way they thought. Not in any way at all. Morning in the village always arrived with noise. Buckets clanged against concrete wells. Roosters screamed their dominance over quiet streets. Women called greetings across fences while sweeping their compounds with short brooms made from dried palm branches. Children ran barefoot toward the borehole, laughing and shoving each other playfully. Precious moved through this familiar chaos like a shadow trying not to touch the light. She greeted neighbors politely. She smiled when required. But she felt their eyes. Always their eyes. In this village, love was never a private matter. Relationships were discussed at dawn, analyzed at noon, and concluded by sunset. Every hand you held was seen. Every smile you shared was measured. Every absence was noted and interpreted. Precious had learned this truth early. Privacy was a luxury that did not exist here. Your life belonged to the community. Your choices were their business. Your secrets were simply stories waiting to be told. And someone always remembered when the first whisper began. Precious had always been known for two things in the village: loyalty and restraint. When friends shared secrets, she kept them. When arguments erupted, she stayed silent. When gossip spread like wildfire through the marketplace, Precious remained calm and unmoved. People trusted her because she rarely spoke carelessly. Mothers told their daughters to be like Precious. Husbands pointed to her as an example of proper womanhood. Even the elders nodded approvingly when her name was mentioned during community meetings. But Precious knew her reputation was built on a flaw, not a virtue. Her silence was not wisdom. It was fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of the chaos that words could create. So she had learned to swallow sentences before they could escape. To nod instead of speak. To smile instead of explain. And for many years, this strategy had protected her. Until silence itself made her the keeper of another person's truth. A truth too heavy to carry alone. Teacher Kofi was respected throughout the village and beyond. He taught mathematics at the secondary school with patience and clarity. Students feared his strictness but loved his fairness. Parents brought him gifts during harvest season. The chief consulted him on matters requiring calculation and wisdom. But despite his respect, Teacher Kofi was lonely. His wife had died 3 years ago during childbirth. The baby had not survived either. Since then, he had lived quietly in his small house near the school. He spoke little. He smiled rarely. He attended church and community meetings but always left early. The village watched him with pity and concern. Such a good man should not be alone, they said. He needs a woman to restore his life. And slowly, without anyone quite knowing how it started, the village decided that women should be Precious. They were often seen talking after church. He had helped her brother with school fees once. She had cooked for him during a community funeral. These small kindnesses became evidence of romance. Neither Precious nor Teacher Kofi corrected the assumption. Because their bond was real. But it was never romantic. It happened on a quiet evening 6 months before Valentine's Day. Precious had brought teacher Kofi some groundnut soup her mother had made. He invited her to sit on his veranda. They talked about small things first. The weather. The school. Her younger brother's progress in mathematics. Then the conversation deepened. Teacher Kofi spoke slowly, his voice carrying the weight of something long buried. He told Precious about his grief. About the guilt he carried. About the secret he had never shared with anyone. His wife had not wanted the pregnancy. She had been afraid. He had insisted, believing God would protect them. When she died, he felt responsible. The village praised him as a faithful husband. But he knew the truth. His faith had killed her. Precious listened without interrupting. When he finished, tears ran down his face. She reached across the space between them and held his hand. She promised secrecy without hesitation. She promised understanding. She promised he was not alone. That promise became a burden she would carry for months. After that night, Precious began to feel different. Knowing teacher Kofi's pain changed how she saw the world. She noticed his forced smiles during church services. She saw how his hands shook when women brought him food. She understood his silence in ways others could not. But carrying his secret also made her feel isolated. She could not share it with her mother. She could not discuss it with her friends. The weight of his confession sat in her chest like a stone she could neither swallow nor spit out. She moved through her days feeling slightly separate from everyone around her. Her laughter became softer. Her silences grew longer. She avoided the marketplace more often. People noticed. Mama Sowa asked if she was feeling well. Her mother checked her forehead for fever. Her best friend Akojua asked repeatedly if something was wrong. Precious said nothing. She smiled. She reassured. She lied. But someone noticed her discomfort. Someone always does. It was Akojua who asked the question that changed everything. They were sitting under the mango tree near Precious's house, peeling cassava for the evening meal. The sun was setting. Children played in the distance. Everything felt normal and safe. Then Akojua smiled mischievously and said, "So when will you and teacher Kofi finally marry?" Precious laughed. A nervous, automatic laugh. She shook her head. "We are just friends, Akojua." Akojua raised her eyebrows. "Just friends? The whole village sees how he looks at you." Precious felt heat rising in her chest. Frustration. Embarrassment. The pressure of 6 months of silence. And then, trying to defend both herself and him, trying to stop the assumption without exposing the truth, she added one sentence too many. "He is not interested in me like that. His heart is still with his wife. He has not moved on at all." The words hung in the air. Akojua's smile faded. Precious felt immediate regret. The sentence had escaped her control. That night, Precious could not sleep. She replayed the conversation over and over in her mind. The words had sounded harmless when she said them. She was simply explaining, defending, clarifying. But now, in the darkness of her room, they felt different. Heavy. Dangerous. She had not betrayed teacher Kofi's full confession. She had not mentioned his guilt or his secret pain. But she had said enough. Enough to suggest she knew something others did not. Enough to hint at depth others could not see. Enough to make people wonder why she knew so much about his heart. Guilt arrived instantly and completely. She considered going to Akojua the next morning. She would explain. She would ask her friend not to repeat it. She would correct the implication. But even as she thought this, Precious knew the truth. Words, once spoken, do not wait for permission. They travel. They transform. They multiply. And someone, somewhere, would retell her sentence differently. By midday the following day, the story had grown legs. Akojua had told her sister. Her sister had told Mama Sowa at the market. Mama Serwa had mentioned it to the women fetching water at the borehole. Each person added a little meaning, a little interpretation, a little drama. By evening, the story had traveled from mouth to mouth, changing shape like clay in different hands. Precious says teacher Kofi is still obsessed with his dead wife. She says he talks about her constantly. She says he will never marry again because he cannot let go. She says he cries about her every night. None of these were Precious's exact words, but they carried her fingerprints, her voice, her carelessness. She heard fragments of the gossip while buying kerosene at the corner shop. Her stomach dropped. Her hands went cold. She wanted to scream, to correct, to explain. But the narrative had already escaped her. It belonged to the village now. And the man who would be hurt most had not even heard it yet. Teacher Kofi heard the rumor 3 days later from a fellow teacher at school. The man mentioned it casually during lunch break, half joking, half concerned. Is it true you still cry for your wife every night? Teacher Kofi froze. His fork stopped midway to his mouth. Who said that? The teacher shrugged. It is what people are saying. Precious told someone you cannot move on. Teacher Kofi set down his fork slowly. He did not finish his meal. He did not respond. He simply stood, walked to his classroom, and closed the door. After that day he changed. The warmth in his greetings disappeared. His smiles became mechanical. He stopped attending community gatherings. He avoided the church courtyard where Precious often stood after services. When their paths crossed, he looked through her as if she were invisible. He did not confront her. He did not shout or accuse. Pride sealed his mouth. But his silence was louder than any words. And Precious understood immediately. He believed she had betrayed him. Valentine's Day arrived with the weight of expectation. The village had been waiting for this moment. Surely, today teacher Kofi and Precious would make their relationship official. Women prepared to see them walking together. Young girls giggled, imagining a public declaration. Even the elders smiled, pleased that two good people would finally find happiness. But teacher Kofi did not leave his house. And Precious stayed far from the school, far from the church, far from anywhere she might be seen. Her absence became the loudest statement. People whispered in the market. Where is Precious? Why is she hiding? Did they fight? Did he reject her? By evening, the whispers turned to conclusions. Something had happened between them. Something shameful. Something Precious had caused. Her absence was not protection. It was evidence. And the crowd, hungry for drama, drew its own conclusions. She had been rejected. She had embarrassed herself. She had been foolish to think a man like teacher Kofi would want her. Within days, the village began speaking as if Precious belonged to teacher Kofi. Not out of respect, but out of mockery. Poor Precious, chasing a man who does not want her. She thought she could replace a dead woman. Teacher Kofi is too good for her. The jokes turned cruel. Cruel in the way only small communities can be. Women whispered loudly when Precious passed. Young men laughed openly. Even children, not understanding the words, imitated the adults' tones. Teacher Kofi became an object of pity. The village painted him as a victim. A man harassed by a desperate woman. A widower who could not grieve in peace. Every kindness he had ever shown Precious was reinterpreted as politeness misunderstood. Every conversation was now evidence of her foolishness. He carried this new burden silently, but it crushed him. He stopped smiling entirely. He stopped teaching with passion. He existed, but he did not live. And Precious, watching from a distance, saw the destruction her careless words had caused. He could no longer endure it. The confrontation happened on a Sunday after church. Precious was walking home alone when she heard his voice. Precious. Stop. She turned. Teacher Kofi stood 10 paces away. His face was calm, but his eyes burned. People nearby slowed their steps, pretending not to listen. "I trusted you," he said quietly. His voice did not rise. He did not insult her. He did not call her names. But every word was a stone. "I gave you something I had never given anyone. And you made it entertainment." Precious opened her mouth. No sound came. "You did not have to protect me," he continued. "But you did not have to destroy me either."